Coming up on Mountain News this morning, nearly 1 year after last year's deadly flood, we are still hearing stories of survival. And one Eastern Kentucky church continues the rebuilding process following the flood. We will check in on their progress.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning, I'm Olivia Calfee. We are coming up on 6 a.m. on July 26th. Now let's check in with Chief Forecaster Brandon Robinson for a look at your forecast this morning. And Brandon, I think you mentioned earlier there was some fog out there. I don't know how widespread that is, but if people are on their way to work, they need to be careful.
Exactly.
But other than that, it's going to be a hot day today.
Mild and muggy this morning, and then again hot and humid this afternoon. We already see dew points up there, 60s and 70s this morning, which means it is air you can wear. Let's take a look at UVA-wise here for a second. Sometimes it glitches on us, but there it is. It's back. Looking at a calm campus this morning and calm skies over there in Southwest Virginia. 64, dew point 64, humidity 100%. So again, that equals sticky out there across the region. 62 Clintwood, 74 Monticello, lots of upper 60s and low 70s. And that's not the good point when you talk about the dew point, because anything past about 65 is soup, and basically we see a lot of folks out there above that. The next few hours we're heading in the 90s, not the decade, but the actual 90s. We got to 90 yesterday at the London Corbin Airport, upper 80s in a lot of other places. We'll all be in the 90s this afternoon, low to maybe even mid 90s out there today. Olivia?
All right, thank you, Brandon. Family and friends are mourning a Knott County Central High School student killed in a deadly ATV crash. Kentucky State Police say the crash happened Tuesday night in the Beaver community, which is near the Knott County-Floyd County line. School officials confirmed with WYMT that grief counselors will be at the high school today. The name of the student has not been released. One 12-year-old boy is dead following a shooting in Laurel County Tuesday afternoon. Police were called to a home about 3 miles south of London. Officials with the sheriff's office say it happened in a bedroom and the boy was shot in the stomach. The circumstances behind the shooting are still unclear. The boy was taken to St. Joseph, London, where he died. The body is being taken to Frankfort for an autopsy. Also in Laurel County, the sheriff's office is investigating a report of a person hit by a train. It happened late last night off Bullock and Slate Lick Road, northeast of London. Police have not released many other details right now. We do not know the person's condition. A Wayne County man is facing felony charges of domestic abuse, strangulation, assault, and wanton endangerment. 19-year-old Maxwell Rush of Monticello was arrested after police received a call about an injured woman at a home on Kentucky 1275. Before officers got there, the woman had left the house. Police later found her at Wayne County Hospital, where she was being treated for multiple injuries related to an assault. Police in Ashland are investigating a threat of a stabbing that ended up happening. Officers say Lauren Sexton texted her roommate and told her that she would stab her, and then followed through on the threat. Police say she stabbed the roommate several times at their home on 11th Street. She is charged with attempted murder. There were new developments Tuesday in the case against a Lexington teenager accused of murder. 19-year-old Emmanuel Contreras is facing charges in the death of 16-year-old Christopher Valdez. It happened earlier this month near a park on Tazewell Drive. Valdez's niece, Jacqueline Garcia, was in the courtroom for a hearing and shared how hard the past month has been for her family.
He took somebody away from me. He wasn't just only my uncle, he was more like a brother to me. It's been painful, hard, knowing that we won't get to see him again, but we're staying strong.
A not guilty plea was entered for Contreras last week. After today's hearing, the case was waived to the grand jury. Police say another 16-year-old who was with Contreras also faces charges in the case. In other news this morning, we have told you the story of how Daniel and Ruby Jacobs survived the flood in Knott County and when they moved back into their home. With the 1-year anniversary coming up, WYMT's Chandler Wilcox talked with them about life since moving back into their renovated house.
It has been almost 1 year since Daniel and Ruby Jacobs were in a life-threatening battle against floodwater.
I sunk in about
8 inches of mud.
And I couldn't move. And he couldn't pull me out. And I tell you, it was bad.
The couple moved back into their home in October and have since been adding to their space. But recovery has been a long process.
It's been very traumatic on us. Our lives have changed quite a bit, physically and mentally, especially because it's taken a real toll on their life because of the fact that what we went through at our age, and our mental capacity is just not what it used to be.
Neither Ruby nor Daniel is able to move around as well, making it tough to renovate without the help of family members.
I am not physically able to do much. What little I've done, I work about maybe an hour and then I have to take off an hour.
After using their savings to rebuild, money has become tight, but Daniel Jacobs says they still have a wonderful family and the faith they built their lives on.
We're thankful for all things, but most of all, we're thankful that God has been our bread and butter, our stability in our lives.
Now the couple says God's plan for them is to continue spreading what they believe to the world. In Knott County, Chandler Wilcox, WYMT Mountain News.
Daniel Jacobs also says they are still trying to rebuild a retaining wall behind their home, but they have had trouble doing that because of a gas line in the ground. As we approach the flood anniversary, some people are still working to get into their new homes. One Clay County woman who survived her home being swept off its foundation is among them. Anna Sams has lived in rental properties since a week after the flood. She survived when floodwaters picked up her home and carried it 500 feet. It stopped thanks to the 3 trees that before the flood she wanted gone.
I'd been trying my best to hire somebody to cut them trees down, couldn't get them cut down. But the Lord knows what they deserve for. I didn't.
She is still waiting on her new home to be finished, but tells us that's probably still about a month away. Homes were not the only thing damaged in the flood. One Letcher County church is still picking up the pieces nearly 1 year later. WYMT's Madison Carmouche talked with the pastor of the Millstone Church of Grace about some of the challenges that comes with flood recovery.
Millstone Church of Grace has been a light in the Millstone community since 1942. But after the flood in July, that became a little harder.
You know, it makes me emotional just to think about this church, you know, of where it used to be. The 57 flood didn't get in this church. The 77 flood didn't get in this church. But the 2022 flood was up to the windowsills in this church.
Members of the church have not had a service in the sanctuary since just before the flood.
It's been a trying time, but of course, you know, we've not let it deter us. We've stayed focused. We've stayed, you know, looking to the Lord, and we're waiting on the Lord to move, to give us some funding. And when that takes place, well, we'll do our very best, and Lord willing, to get this place back together to where we can get back in our sanctuary.
While they are still a long way from moving back in, progress has been made.
We are so appreciative of the groups that came in and helped us, and it was people in our community, and it was people all around the world, or at least in the nation. There was people from New York, there was people from Florida, there was people from Alabama, there was people from Iowa, there was people from California. I mean, they come from everywhere.
And that help has not stopped. Pastor Holbrook says he is thankful and his main goal is to get back into the sanctuary.
You know, we still plan on being a light to the community. We have been, this church has been a light for the community since 1942.
In Letcher County, Madison Carmouche, WYMT Mountain News.
Holbrook says he appreciates all of the volunteers and donations made during the past year. On a much lighter note this morning, one southeastern Kentucky school district is getting a new leader. Williamsburg Independent Schools has hired Tabitha Housekeeper as its new superintendent. She is leaving a position at the University of the Cumberlands for the position. Housekeeper is an Eastern Kentucky native who spent most of her career in Scott County, where she climbed the ranks from teacher to assistant principal to principal. She is the first woman to hold the position in the district.
6:09 here on this Wednesday morning, middle of the week, middle of the road forecast for now. But again, it's going to be the Triple H threat as we head through the next few days. Hazy, hot, and humid. Let's take a look at London this morning along I-75. Looks like there's some maybe just the camera froze there for a second. Looked like there was some stopped traffic there for a second, but it seems to be moving pretty good. Maybe just a little bit of patchy fog and 70 down that way this morning. Also 70 in Harlan, Somerset, Moorhead, Prestonsburg. Again, very mild, very muggy out there in a lot of places this morning. 62 in Clintwood. Of course, our friends over in Southwest Virginia, always a little bit cooler than the rest of us. Breakfast forecast this morning, upper 60s, low 70s out there across the board, and we're going to continue to see that only go up as we head deeper today. We could be close to 90 by lunchtime. Olivia?
Thank you, Brandon, and thanks for joining Mountain News this morning. More news is on the way. Coming up, how one group of federal employees band together to give one little boy a birthday surprise he will never forget.